Welcome to the deep dive. We're operating just a little differently today. Normally, we arrive at the table with an absolute abundance of material.
Right, yeah. Usually we bring you these sprawling biographies or heavily documented historical events
Yeah,
or deep, multi-layered scientific research papers.
exactly. We usually sift through mountains of information to find the narrative for you. But today, our mission is, well, it's the exact opposite. We are practicing a highly specific form of media archaeology because our source material is remarkably scarce.
Scarcity is putting it mildly.
Right. We are looking at a single, incredibly brief Wikipedia stub about a 1920 American silent Western film titled In Wrong Wright.
And that is it.
That is it. There are no contemporary reviews in our stack today. There are no surviving production diaries from the set. We do not have a retrospective documentary to draw from.
And we certainly do not have the film itself.
No, we don't. And it
Yeah.
forces a completely different analytical approach.
It really does. When you are presented with a skeleton, which is essentially what this digital stub is, you have to examine the marrow. You have to look at the spaces between the words.
Right.
We are going to analyze the metadata, the cast list, the structural format of the film, and the very specific phrasing used to document it. The goal for you, listening to this, is to see exactly how much we can reconstruct from these bare bones.
Because you can actually extract a profound understanding of the early film industry from this.
Oh, absolutely. The evolution of actor branding,
Yeah.
the philosophical weight of what we call lost media, all of it is hidden in just a few seemingly innocuous lines of text.
So, to properly orient ourselves, I want you to mentally anchor yourself to a very specific date that is provided in the source. October 30th, 1920.
A very different world.
Completely different. Imagine walking into a cinema on that particular autumn day. The environment is entirely different from the multiplexes we know now. You are not there for a 3-hour digitally projected epic.
No, definitely not.
You are sitting down to watch a 20-minute black and white silent picture. You are there to watch In Wrong Wright.
That 20-minute runtime, that's really the first critical piece of structural data we need to examine here.
Yeah, let's unpack that.
In the modern era, we are so conditioned to view cinema as a long-form medium, right? We expect 2, maybe 3 hours. But in 1920, a 20-minute short was a fundamental standardized unit of entertainment currency.
It was the standard.
Exactly. It functioned much like a single episode of a modern television comedy does for us today, or even a highly produced YouTube video.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
It was designed to be consumed quickly,
Well,
offering a complete narrative arc within a highly constrained time frame. You get in, you get the story, you get out.
and that constraint, it demands a very specific type of narrative efficiency. If Ford Beebe, who the source lists as the writer for this film, if he only has 20 minutes to work with, there is zero margin for slow, meandering character development.
Zero. You can't have a slow burn.
You just can't. The setting must be established instantly. The protagonist, the antagonist, the central conflict, all of that has to be telegraphed to the audience within the first few minutes.
Which leaves just enough time for an escalating situation and a swift resolution.
Right. And that efficiency had to be achieved without spoken dialogue. Which brings us to the designation of silent English intertitles in the metadata.
That's a huge point. The spatial limitations of an intertitle forced writers like Beebe to pioneer a form of, well, hyper-efficient microcopywriting.
Microcopywriting, yeah.
Because every single word projected onto that screen interrupted the visual flow of the film. Therefore, the text had to be absolutely essential. You couldn't waste a single syllable.
We really take the seamlessness of modern audio for granted, don't we?
We do.
Because when you are watching a silent film, the pacing is a distinct rhythm of action followed by reading. Action, reading, action, reading.
It's a completely different cognitive experience for you as a viewer.
It is. The actors deliver the emotional resonance and the physical stakes of the scene through elevated, highly legible physical performances. And then the screen cuts to a black card with white text to deliver the crucial plot mechanics, or the punchline.
It requires the audience to constantly shift between passive viewing and active reading. You are constantly participating in the pacing of the story.
Which makes the title of the film itself incredibly important because the title is essentially the very first intertitle the audience engages with.
Yes, and the source explicitly lists the title as In Wrong Wright, complete with quotation marks around the phrase, in wrong.
Those quotation marks are fascinating to me.
They are doing so much work.
They really are. They immediately signal to you that this isn't just a traditional Western about a stoic cowboy riding into town. The quotation marks operate almost like a warning label or a highly specific genre signifier.
It reads like an established nickname.
Exactly. It highlights a core character trait.
It implies a protagonist who is perpetually making mistakes. A character who chronically finds himself on the wrong side of luck or the wrong side of the law, just through sheer bumbling circumstance.
Right. He's always in wrong.
Precisely. And when you combine that nickname with the 20-minute runtime we just talked about, it paints a very clear picture of the film's tone. This is almost certainly a fast-paced physical comedy playing out against the aesthetic backdrop of the American West.
The title is doing a tremendous amount of marketing work before the film even begins. It's telling you exactly what you're buying a ticket for.
Which naturally leads us to the entity responsible for that marketing and distribution.
The studio.
Right. The metadata states that Wrong Wright was distributed by the Universal Film Manufacturing Company.
That specific phrasing, manufacturing company, it is incredibly revealing about the DNA of early Hollywood.
It really strips away the romance we often associate with filmmaking, doesn't it?
It entirely removes the magic. It
Yeah.
frames the medium not as an elevated art form, but as a heavily industrialized process.
The Universal Film Manufacturing Company was not approaching this 20-minute short as a bespoke cinematic masterpiece. They were producing a widget.
A widget on an assembly line.
Exactly. They were operating an assembly line designed to churn out standardized units of entertainment to satisfy the relentless demand of the theaters. The theaters needed content, and Universal manufactured it.
It is the direct ancestor of the modern algorithm-driven content mill. We think of that as a new phenomenon, but it's not. The studio needed a constant stream of product to keep the distribution channels full. And to maintain that kind of manufacturing pace, you need a highly organized division of labor.
You can't just have one guy doing everything.
No. The source lists Albert Russell as the director and Ford Beebe as the writer. Even for a mere 20-minute short, there is a clear demarcation of professional duties.
And that specialization is the absolute hallmark of an industrialized system. Ford Beebe is the architect, drafting the blueprint of the action and crafting the precise wording of those English intertitles we discussed.
And Albert Russell is the foreman.
He's the foreman, executing the blueprint on the factory floor, managing the camera placements and the actors. They are specialized workers operating within the machinery of the Universal Film Manufacturing Company.
And the most visible components of that machinery are the actors themselves. The source provides a cast list, and sitting right at the top, the designated draw for the audience is Hoot Gibson.
Hoot Gibson. He is the hood ornament on the manufactured vehicle.
That is a perfect way to put it.
In a system driven by volume, you need a reliable brand anchor to guarantee the audience's attention. Hoot Gibson serves that function. People know what they are getting when they see his name. But the ensemble surrounding him is equally important to the infrastructure of the studio system.
Right, let's look at the rest of the names. The source lists Dorothy Wood, Harry Jackson, and Jim Corey. For you, the theatergoer in 1920, these are the recognizable faces populating this endless stream of content.
They are the working-class actors of the early Western genre.
The reliable villains, the sidekicks, the townsfolk, you see them week in and week out. But the most compelling details in this cast list, at least to me, are the specific annotations regarding actor identities.
This is where the metadata gets really interesting.
The metadata explicitly notes two distinct discrepancies in the credits. First, we have an actor named Tom London, but the source indicates he is credited as Leonard Clapham. And we have Charles Herzinger, who is noted as being credited as C.W. Herzinger.
The case of Tom London being credited as Leonard Clapham is a brilliant early example of algorithm optimization, long before digital algorithms ever existed.
It's fascinating. Why does a person working in the Western genre change their name from Leonard Clapham to Tom London?
It is pure branding. The Universal Film Manufacturing Company, or perhaps the actor himself, recognized that Leonard Clapham does not evoke the rugged, dust-bitten archetypes of the American West.
It really doesn't.
Leonard Clapham sounds like a banker or an accountant.
Yeah, you don't want Leonard Clapham riding into town to save the day.
Exactly. Tom London, on the other hand, is a blunt instrument. It is sharp, memorable, and it fits seamlessly onto a marquee alongside names like Hoot Gibson.
They were essentially A/B testing identities. They were seeing what resonated with the audience and what looked best on the promotional materials. The studio's control extended way beyond the script and the camera. It extended to the literal names of the human assets they were utilizing.
And then we look at the case of Charles Herzinger, being credited as C.W. Herzinger. While Tom London's name change appears to be a calculated branding maneuver, Herzinger's change might be entirely rooted in the physical constraints of the analog medium.
This goes right back to the silent English intertitles we were talking about earlier. The physical space on a title card, or even on a printed theater poster in 1920, was totally finite.
Precisely. Typesetting was a physical, laborious process. Using initials like CW instead of spelling out Charles Say's Inc., it saves space, and it increases the immediate readability of the text on the screen.
It's a stark reminder of how the physical reality of the medium dictated the presentation of the people working within it. The technology forces a specific type of brevity, even altering a man's professional identity just to fit within the margins.
It really shows you how much the medium is the message, even back then.
Absolutely. So we have managed to deduce an incredible amount of information about the industry, the pacing, and the marketing of this film. We understand the factory that built it and the workers who assembled it.
But this is where the source material presents us with a massive, glaring void.
The void. If you look at the Wikipedia stub for right under the heading for plot, there is absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
There is only an automated banner placed there by the site's editors that reads, "This article needs a plot summary. Please add one in your own words."
Please add one in your own words.
It is a stark, almost haunting realization. We know exactly when this film was released. We know the corporate entity that manufactured it. We know the writer, the director, and the actors who performed in it. We even know that Tom London was using the name Leonard Clapham at the time.
But the actual narrative is gone.
Completely gone. What happens to the character of Wright, what mistakes he makes, how the comedy unfolds, it has vanished entirely.
It forces us to confront the epistemology of a film. If a movie can no longer be watched and its story can no longer be recounted, does it still exist as a piece of art?
That's the big question.
Or has it been entirely reduced to a historical data point? In Wrong Wright has survived only as metadata. The human experience of the story, the actual art that Ford Beebe wrote and Albert Russell directed, has evaporated.
This highlights the terrifying fragility of media. The Universal Film Manufacturing Company distributed this to theaters across the country. It was seen by audiences. People laughed at it.
But once its commercial run was over, the physical reels of film likely held no further financial value to the studio.
Right. They may have degraded. They may have been lost to fire, which was incredibly common with early nitrate film.
Highly flammable.
Very. Or they might have simply been discarded to make room for the next manufactured product on the assembly line.
We operate under the assumption that mass distribution equates to historical permanence. We think if everyone saw it, it will last forever. But this stub proves that assumption completely false.
And the only reason we even have this skeletal record, the only reason you can look up in Wrong Wright on the internet today, is due to an incredibly precarious bridge between the analog and digital worlds.
Yes, the references section.
Right. If you look at the references section of our source, there is a warning banner stating that the entire article relies largely or entirely on a single source.
One single source.
And that source is not a digital database. It's not a studio archive that Universal uploaded to the cloud. It is a physical book. Larry Langman's A Guide to Silent Westerns, published in 1992.
Think about the timeline here. In 1992, decades before Wikipedia became the dominant repository of human knowledge, a researcher named Larry Langman sat down, likely in a library or an archive somewhere, and compiled a physical reference book.
He documented the release date, the runtime, and the pass list of this obscure 1920 short.
If Langman had not done that physical analog work in 1992, In Wrong Wright might be entirely absent from the digital era. It just wouldn't exist online.
The internet feels infinite and permanent to us, but in this case, its memory is entirely reliant on a single physical book published 72 years after the film was released.
It reveals the digital age as a surprisingly fragile construct, built upon the shoulders of physical archiving. When those physical sources are scarce, the digital reflection is hollow.
You end up with pages like the one for In Wrong Wright, a meticulously formatted framework of data with an empty center where the story used to be. The metadata survives, but the art itself is a casualty of time and industrial indifference.
It's a sobering thought.
We've traveled from a 20-minute silent film in the autumn of 1920 through the rigid machinery of the Universal Film Manufacturing Company to the branding optimization of early actors, and finally to a solitary reference book in 1992 that serves as the only anchor keeping this film tethered to the modern world.
And the ultimate takeaway for you, as a consumer of media today, is to recognize the ephemerality of the content you interact with. We live in an era of absolute content saturation.
We really do. We are surrounded by digital video, streaming platforms, and endless feeds of manufactured entertainment.
But the mass distribution of today is no more a guarantee of permanence than the theatrical distribution of 1920.
100 years from now, the digital infrastructure we rely on will have evolved or decayed. The platforms that host our current culture could easily vanish, leaving behind only scattered metadata.
The artifacts we are generating today will be the puzzles that future media archaeologists attempt to decipher. They will look at our digital stubs, our broken links, and our archived metadata tags, trying to reconstruct the narratives of our time, just as we have attempted to reconstruct the silence of this forgotten Western.
It has been a remarkable exercise in seeing the invisible with you today. Thank you for joining us as we sifted through the remnants of In Wrong Right. Before we leave you, we want to offer a final, lingering thought to explore on your own.
Something to think about next time you stream a movie.
Exactly. If a globally distributed film from 1920, backed by a major studio and starring recognizable actors, can be reduced to nothing but a cast list and a plot-missing banner a century later, what specific pieces of the digital media you consume and love today will be reduced to just an empty title in the year 2126?